We wanted to put a panel of experts together to help share with the community that there's help out there. And we wanted to explain to you the different pots that are available of funding and resources, and to introduce to you the experts, I would say, in the field that can help guide us through the process. The governor introduced last week that there's $50 million statewide available for people that may need some help in this area because of on Maui County, we have 62,000 residents, our neighbors, who have filed for unemployment. So we've been hit hard, as you know, by the visitors that we're waiting for them to come back. And I'm so glad that we have our utility here to encourage and educate us on what to do. We have landlord attorneys, Legal Aid Society, and MEO, and mediation services, just here to help us go through this process so that we can help our residents access needs if they have and resources. So I want to do a special shout out to Akaku for allowing us to do this Zoom presentation, because they will show this out further than today so that we can continue doing education of our residents. That was a top priority for us. And special thanks to Fidelity National Title, who let me zoom in on their meetings. I could see what you were all doing to bring this together. And Judge Cardoza, who all of you know, he's supposed to be retired, but he's still working and helping us through. He was brought back, I think, by Chief Justice to take on this huge possible problem that may happen if we didn't have somebody with his expertise. So thank you, everybody, again. So I wanted to introduce who we have here today. First of all, David Chi, who's an attorney from Oahu. David.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, so your expert is to do landlord.
Yep, I'm an attorney and I represent landlords.
Thank you. We also have Legal Aid Society here. So in case we have any tenants who may need the services, we have Yukari Murakami and Dan O'Mara.
Hi, I'm Yukari, and I'm the managing attorney for the Maui office.
Oh, good. And Dan?
I'm Dan O'Mara, and I'm the managing attorney for our housing and consumer unit in general. So,
thank you for all the people you help. Thelma Kealoha, who is a friend of ours. We always see you, Catholic Charities. You want to say something? Hi, Thelma.
Hi, I'm Thelma Akika Kealoha with Catholic Charities Hawaii, and I'm the Maui Community Director.
And we also have with us today Jessica Kraus from the Department of Housing and Human Concerns.
Hi, good evening. I am the Assistant Housing Administrator, and I'm very pleased to join such an awesome panel this evening.
Thank you. Debbie Kabibi from MEO.
Aloha.
Thank you, Debbie, for administering the Laulima program, the HELP program. And Bivon Bowers from Maui Mediation Services.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for allowing me to be on the panel.
Glad to have you here. And then we also have Mahina Martin from Hawaiian Electric.
Aloha, and thank you for convening and bringing everybody together tonight. Really appreciate it.
I think the utilities have made special provisions to stand with us as we walk together to help our our residents. So I'm glad you're here. It's a very important part of this whole formula. And who's not here yet, and I hope he does join us, is Nicholas Winfrey from Maui United Way. Simultaneously to this, they're having a board meeting. So he said he may join us if he could, but I wish he does, just so that we can understand all that they're doing. Dan and Chivo, thank you very much from Akaku for helping us and being here. And at this time, I wanted to turn it over to Judge Cardoza. And if you could take us through this panel. Thank you very much.
Real good. Thank you very much, Councilmember Sugimura. And aloha, everyone. Our topic tonight deals with the impact of the coronavirus as it relates to residential rentals and possible eviction cases, as well as rental assistance programs, and the question of how to deal with utilities. You know, on behalf of the panelists, we want to thank everyone who's made this evening possible, because we would like to get this information out to the community. Now, before we begin the presentation, I do want to just say that we want you to understand that nothing said during this presentation should be taken as legal advice, and there is no creation of an attorney-client relationship between yourself and any of the panelists. Viewers should contact their own attorneys to obtain advice with respect to their own particular legal matters. Questions asked of the panelists may be modified to protect anonymity, and also the content in this particular roundtable is provided as is, and no representations are made concerning the content being error-free. So I thank you for that. Now I'm going to turn to David, Dan, and Yukari. To all of you, before the pandemic, if a tenant failed to pay rent that was due, the tenant could face eviction. And my question is that still the case, or are there other measures in place that impact the ability of a landlord to evict a tenant for the failure to pay rent? And David, I'll start with you.
Thanks. Right now, there is a moratorium in place, and in fact, there are two of them. There's the state moratorium that has been imposed by the governor's proclamation, where the governor has said that you can't evict anybody who just on the basis of non-payment of rent. So that particular proclamation and moratorium is in effect until the end of this month. I think most people anticipate that it'll get moved along and continued to an additional month, because he's been extending it several times. The other moratorium that has recently been put into place has been put into place by the CDC. So it's a federal moratorium on evictions. That one goes until the end of the month. That one, it layers on top of the eviction moratorium that has been placed by the governor. So right now, the one that really, if you're going to concentrate on one, concentrate on the governor's moratorium, because that's the one that is immediately effective in preventing landlords from evicting tenants who haven't paid the rent.
Dan and Yukari, anything you would like to add to that?
I think just one, I think David mentioned that the CDC moratorium, it applies across the board, not just to federal loans, but it goes to the end of the year, not just, it goes beyond the state moratorium, which is why I think David was suggesting that the state moratorium will probably come and match it at some point.
Yukari?
No, I think that they.
All right, real good. Well, let me ask this. We've been talking about unpaid rent. Now, what options, if any, are available if the alleged breach does not involve unpaid rent? David? So
when a tenant breaks their rental agreement by doing something other than unpaid rent. So for example, noise violations, they fail to clean up the place, or they do something else that violates the rental agreement. The law still allows for evictions based on that. So, and the other thing that can happen is if a tenancy ends as a matter of its own terms, like let's say the rental agreement said that the tenant was supposed to move out and the tenancy end on July 31st, and then the tenant didn't do that, then a landlord could at that point evict the tenant because they're not supposed to be there anymore. As long as the basis for the eviction is not non-payment, there isn't any moratorium right now that is preventing an eviction action.
Dan and/or Yukari, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think we have a couple, just a couple slides that address a couple misconceptions that I think a lot of people have about the moratorium and 45-day notices on month-to-month rents. And I think Yukari might have that to be able to present that. So we'd like to show that.
Okay, I'm going to be sharing my screen and hopefully this will work. Okay, can everybody see?
No. Oh, yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's some slides show about the misconceptions of myth and misconceptions. I'm going to see if I can. Oh, hold on. I apologize. Is it this one?
Perhaps, okay.
Okay.
All right, good.
This is as good as it gets for me. Okay. Okay, so the myth that we have, one myth, landlords will be able to send generic 45-day notices again after the state eviction moratorium ends. Currently is right now set for September 30th. The fact is, no, the moratorium restrictions on evictions is for non-payment, and this covers state and CDC for now. The restrictions prohibiting 45-day notices is contained in emergency proclamations and in HRS, Hawaii Revised Statute sections 127A30, and will apply as long as the statute is invoked under the proclamation. Exemptions to the 45-day notice if the bona fide purchase of a property gives a notice, or a landlord or immediate family of the landlord is moving back in, then the 45-day notice is valid. Myth. Landlords can provide 5-day or 45-day notices during the moratorium and just wait until it is over. These notices are impermissible, and the notices sent during the emergency are not permitted. So right now what's happening in the court is that I believe the court on its own is dismissing those cases without prejudice, but the landlords are free to refile them at a later date after the moratorium is lifted. Okay, these are the two main ones I wanted to do. Hold on. Okay, thank you.
All right, real good. Thank you, Yukari. David, you mentioned a specific lease term and the end of it. What happens if the tenant stays on?
If the tenant stays on, then the landlord can bring an eviction action to have the tenant removed from the premises. So yeah, that's basically it. If the tenant doesn't move on and the landlord allows the tenant to stay, then the tenant will become a month-to-month tenant. And as Yukari just explained, during the pendency of the emergency proclamation, landlords cannot terminate a month-to-month tenancy except for very limited circumstances. So once you become a month-to-month tenant, the landlord basically can't get rid of you even if you don't pay the rent.
Wow.
Yeah. I call it being bulletproof, quite honestly.
Okay, thank you. I know this presentation deals with residential landlord-tenant matters, but just to very briefly touch on this, because we're talking about moratoriums. Do the moratoriums extend to commercial leases?
No, not at all. The commercial leases have not been affected by the moratorium. So if a tenant who in a commercial space, like, if you have a store and you're renting space at the mall and you don't pay your rent, there's nothing in the law that's going to prevent the landlord from filing an eviction claim, an eviction case against you.
Dan and/or Yukari, anything you would like to say about any of that?
Wow.
I think that's a pretty good summary of it. Yeah, the commercial doesn't impact them at all, and I think that's all those things are fair statements.
Thank you. I'm going to turn now to the question of utilities. And I'm going to put out more than one scenario here. One would be where the landlord, pursuant to the lease agreement, has agreed to pay the utilities. Another would be a situation where the tenant has assumed responsibility for the utilities, and we'll assume that those utility bills are not being paid. How will that work, David, from the landlord end?
From my view of it is that landlords are still obliged to fulfill all of their obligations under the rental agreement, even if they're not getting paid. So if the landlord is supposed to be providing electricity and water, then the landlord should continue to provide electricity and water. Just like if the roof breaks or there's a hole in the roof and starts to leak, landlord still has an obligation to fix the roof. If the stove breaks, the landlord has an obligation to fix the stove. All of these things. So the landlord has an obligation to continue to fulfill his or her obligations to maintain a habitable premises. And the failure to do that might be a problem if the tenant takes the landlord to court. Seems rather unfair, I think, to most people. It's kind of like as if the tenant were a customer in a restaurant and the landlord is the owner of the restaurant, and the owner has to continue to serve the customer even if the customer won't pay, and just has to continue to provide the goods and services even if nothing is paid, and they can't force the customer to leave.
Dan and/or Yukari, what if the tenant has the obligation to pay the utility bills and fails to do so?
They're going to be in the position that the utility companies right now have a moratorium on disconnecting people until the end of the year. So they're sort of in the same position now with the landlord. If they don't pay the utility company, their utilities won't get shut off. I mean, it's not going to be a good thing for them down the road to not pay utilities, and it's going to hinder their ability to get utilities the next time they want to move. But they're protected again still until the end of the year, rightly or wrongly. But that's just policy-wise, that's the way it's played out right now.
Let me ask you this: the moratorium's in place. Does that mean you don't have to pay the rent, or you don't have to pay the utilities after the moratoriums are over, or do you still have that obligation?
Well, I'll tell you, from our perspective, a lot of people think that tenants are just going to be freeloaders, and there are going to be some that are taking advantage of it. For the most part, people do want to pay their bills. That's a lot of stress on people if they are not able to pay their bills, and so the bills still accumulate. The rent still accrues. The utility bill still goes forward. It's going to impact their ability for their next housing, because a lot of people are looking at what happens after this moratorium is over and they can't stay in their current housing. They're going to have to find new housing of some sort, and that's kind of the risk they take if they don't make any efforts or tap into the state money or take advantage of whatever opportunities the utilities companies are offering, because you've just hurt yourself. You get some short-term benefit, but you've hurt yourself once this moratorium is over.
I'm going to turn now to the question of rent payments, and we may loop back into this as we talk about rent assistance programs. But one of the questions that's come up, and that is that if a tenant is able to secure rent assistance, and there's a check that's made to pay that rent through a rent assistance program, there's going to be a requirement that there be a tax ID provided. And any thoughts on whose tax ID is supposed to be used if there's a property manager in there? David, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, really what should happen is that's a decision that ought to be made between the property manager and the actual landlord, the actual person who's going to be getting the money. So if I was a property manager and I was approached by a tenant and asked for a W-9 so that I could provide that to a aid provider, I would call the landlord and have a discussion with the landlord or perhaps the landlord's accountant as to which tax ID number should be provided so that the right people get taxed for the income.
Would the best time to do that be before any kind of agreement is signed with the rent assistance program, or can that be done later?
Well, certainly you're not going to get any money unless you get the W-9 to the rent assistance program. So the sooner you do it, the better.
Now, one of the things that's come up is this, and this has been shared with us previously. On occasion, a landlord either does not want to participate in a rent assistance program or gets a rent assistance check and returns it. Now, if in a situation where a tenant shows up in court with all the money that's due, I'm going to ask you, David, and Dan and or Yukari, what would happen? And what would happen if a tenant goes to court in January and tells the judge, I qualified for rent assistance. In fact, there was even a check that was made payable to the landlord, and the landlord sent it back. David, any comment on that kind of a situation?
Yeah, as a practical thing, if a landlord is trying to evict a tenant for not paying the rent, and the tenant tendered the rent, the judge is going to look at you really funny if you explain, oh yeah, they tried to pay the rent and then I refused it. So as a general proposition, if a tenant tenders the rent and the landlord doesn't take it, I think the landlord does that at their peril. You have to remember that judges generally do not want to evict people. You know, this is the sort of thing that makes judges unhappy. It's part of their job, and they'll do it, but they don't want to do it.
Dan and or Yukari, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, one thing that the theory is that the court's not going to evict somebody in that situation, a tenant most likely. But that's nice to know, except if you're that tenant who is wondering what's going to happen, is not used to the process, isn't represented. So a lot of what all of the tenants in this situation is how much self-advocacy they can do, how much sort of intestinal fortitude they have to sort of resist the request for payment, and how willing they are to stand up for themselves. If they kind of just throw in the towel, they may never find out the answer, if they could have stayed there because they had gotten the rental assistance. So a lot of it's going to be, tenants sort of withstanding that. There's going to be a lot of pressure. They haven't paid their rent. They're going to court. They don't know what's going to happen. Their landlord's not taking the assistance. They don't know what's going to happen. So a lot of it's going to depend on how they can withstand all that uncertainty. And there's going to be a lot of uncertainty for them.
Thank you. Yukari, anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, I guess for the tenants, if they're facing that situation, and give us a call at our number at 1-800-499-4302. If they qualify for our services, then we can assist with someone in court for that.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to turn now to Thelma. And Thelma, you're with Catholic Charities. Catholic Charities is one of the agencies that are working on providing rent assistance. And as has been mentioned by Councilmember Sugimura, there has been announced by the governor and the establishment of a rent assistance program. In fact, phase one of the program appears to be a $50 million phase, and phase two, another $50 million phase. Could you tell us about what's available there, and what kind of assistance is available? And for an individual who wants to pursue rent assistance, how do they do that? Thelma?
Okay. So this is our RAP program. It's a Rental Relief Housing Assistance Program. This is a statewide program. Catholic Charities Hawaii is providing it on the neighbor islands, and Maui as well, of course. This program is for rental assistance for COVID-19 affected individuals, and it's also mortgage, they'll pay mortgage as well as rent. But the thing with the first phase is they're looking at folks who have a plan or some kind of mortgage remodification and things like that. So that's what they're looking at for the first phase. So rent and mortgage assistance, and also you can apply for homeowners insurance. So there's limits, there's caps and everything. For Maui, the rent and the mortgage assistance is $1,500 a month. It's not like other programs that we've been involved with as far as COVID-19 affected folks. Usually there's a 3-month maximum for assistance. So the RAP program, there is no maximum assistance. However, that being said, the deadline to apply for Catholic Charities Hawaii for this relief is December 8th, because the funding does end before the end of December. So it's a short window of time. And the easiest way to apply is online. So there is, our website is www.catholiccharities.hawaii.org. As soon as you type in that website, our website will come on, and the first thing that comes on is the rental relief program. So all you have to do is click apply, and it'll take you directly to the application. So far, we have been working with 6,000 people since last week, Tuesday. Every day, my phone is ringing off the hook, and I'm not even the person who is doing this assistance, but everybody in our office is getting phone calls for this rental relief program, and they all have questions, and lots of people are not tech savvy, so they're having issues. People aren't aware that they need their documents when they apply to make their application complete. So because they haven't been able to upload documents, they've also been sending their applications to our office, which is fine because we can make sure that these documents are sent to the correct place so their application can be complete. Because if their application is not complete and their documents aren't uploaded, then they're not going to be approved for assistance. And because of the confusion with Aloha United Way and Catholic Charities Hawaii, we've been getting all these applications that Aloha United Way has helped people with, but you only can apply at one place at a time. If they've already applied with Aloha United Way, then when they apply with us for the same month, it will be considered a duplication and it will be denied. So what we're doing with Aloha United Way as far as the state funding is there's going to be a check system and database, so people will be checked to see who they're applying with for what month, because they won't be allowed to duplicate those services. And it is only rent and mortgage. There's a question about utilities. We are working with Maui United Way. Maui United Way also has funding for COVID affected people. They are assisting with past due rent and utilities. So we're partnering with them to provide that assistance. So I believe Nick is hopefully going to be joining us at the end, towards the ending of the program, and will explain further the CRUA funding. But so these folks can apply with us for rental assistance or mortgage assistance. And if they still need utility assistance, they can apply for CRUA funds or for Maui United Way funding, and we'll assist with that. So, the best way again to apply is online. We're taking phone calls, but people get confused when they hear the helpline number, which is 873-4673, because what they do is as soon as they hear Maui Community Director, that's what they press. Or they're just trying to get a live person, so they're going down the directory. This RAP funding is under our financial assistance program, so they have to press 1 and leave a message, and somebody will get back to them. And we also have websites for financial assistance. I apologize that I don't have the graphic for this, so people can share, but please feel free to call and ask questions, and somebody will get back to you.
So Thelma, if I'm hearing you correctly, if you're not sure if you qualify or not, it sounds like what you're suggesting is call, apply, and if you qualify, learn whether or not you qualify.
Right. It's lots of people have been qualifying. There's really few instances that people won't qualify. First of all, you have to show a need, right? You have to be COVID affected. And if you have that need, more than likely you will qualify for assistance. The restrictions as far as income is, 100% of the median income, right? The family. So if people are only getting unemployment, if people aren't getting unemployment and have applied for one reason or another, lots of our clients have applied but haven't been able to qualify for one reason or another. There's an error on their form, they can't get a hold of people, things like that happen. So they show that need, that they have applied, they have a response from unemployment, they qualify income-wise. There's no cap on assets for this program. So people can have a small savings and retirement, as long as, like I said, they are COVID affected and they show a need. The other thing is that...
Sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
There are so many resources available, and we're all trying to work with each other to, make sure that folks are helped in the best way that suits them. That it is frustrating for them. They feel like they're being bounced around from place to place without all the answers. And unfortunately, yes, that does happen. But we're asking for people to be patient, and we're also we need all the documents in order to have the application be complete and move that application forward so we can pay for the rent. Also, sometimes the questions we ask are sensitive, but everything is confidential, except for the fact that we have to match databases to make sure that they're only applying through one organization for 1 month at a time. So these things happen. Hopefully people will understand that, because we all want to help the people in the community. So
now let's assume a situation where a tenant qualifies for rent assistance. Now, where does the money go? Does that go to the tenant, to the landlord? Where does that go?
Yeah, the money will go directly to the landlord or the mortgage company. So checks are never cut out to clients.
Now, you mentioned a maximum of $1,500 a month, and anyone can weigh in on this. But let's say the pursuant to the lease agreement rents $1,200 a month. Does that mean that somebody can still get $1,500 a month, or does it actual rent?
It's the actual rent. So, in some cases, the rent is beyond the $1,500, right? Let's say they pay $1,700. In those instances, they can also apply with another organization like Maui United Way or for the CRUA funds to make up that balance so they can get their whole rent paid. And that is acceptable for us.
Now, one thing I heard is that payment is made by way of cashier's check. And I heard someone say, watch your mail and don't throw away your mail. Make sure you open it and check inside. Why are they saying that?
Why are they saying check your mail?
Yes, open your mail. Don't put it in the waste can if you're a landlord, for example.
Because you might be throwing away your check for the client. There are ways to double check to make sure the checks have been sent out. But if they throw it away, then we need to do a stop payment on that check and issue another check. So, that further delays the landlord getting paid.
Now, I'm going to kind of go back to David on the landlord side, and Thelma, you can weigh on this as well. But some people look at this and say, "My gosh, over $100 million available for tenants. What are they doing for landlords?" And David, I mean, you represent landlords. What's your perspective on this?
I've been pushing and encouraging all of my clients to get all of their tenants to be involved, because at the end of the day, this is being viewed, I think, by most people as a rent relief program for tenants. I view it as a rent relief program for landlords, because the tenant gets a credit, the landlord gets the money. So from my perspective, this is a direct payment to the landlords. All you got to do is see if you can get your tenants to qualify.
Thelma, anything you'd like to say about that?
I believe that Jillian, who is the lady on Oahu who's spearheading this program for Catholic Charities Hawaii, reached out to the realty associations, and she reached out to the RAM Association on Maui and let the property managers know that this funding was going to be available so they could let their tenants know. And the other thing, I believe Councilmember Yukile Sugimura asked me, what happens if the client has a month-to-month lease? Because previously, we've always requested 6-month leases. So for this funding, they will allow a month-to-month lease as long as the landlord has agreed that that's what their lease is. So they're going to have to verify that, and they will also have to verify how past due people are. We talked about phases. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I thought you were finished. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, we talked about phases. This is phase 1. The second phase, they're looking at, phase 1 is from August to December, rent from August to December, mortgage from August to December. And phase 2, they're looking at April, May, June, July rent and mortgage. So we believe that starting October, people will be able to apply for those months as well.
Now, I understand that in terms of the payment, what will happen is if we're talking August through December and a person qualifies, the first check will cover 3 months. And then there's a simple recertification process. And then the second check would cover the last 2 months, November and December. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. As far as what I've been told, that is correct. But I am not sure that people know that is possible. So when they're applying, they may only be applying for 1 month.
Thelma, anything else you think we should add at this point on the state assistance program?
No, I believe that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to Jessica now. Jessica, the county has been very much involved in rent assistance programs even before COVID-19 and after. And so there are a number of programs out there. And I'm wondering if you could let us know what the county has in terms of its programs and how one might be able to access those programs.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the introduction. So the county has funded a rental assistance program, and like you mentioned, it has been operated since well before the impacts that we're seeing from COVID-19. So it's actually a great resource for households that may have some sort of need for rental assistance, not specifically due to COVID-19 as well. So if someone has some other sort of life event that would necessitate emergency rental assistance, that program's available. So the way the county program is structured is that there are 4 participating agencies, which are MEO, Kahaleakeola, Family Life Center, and Women Helping Women. And so each agency receives an award from the county to administer the program. All 4 agencies do follow the same program guidelines, do offer the same level of assistance, and do communicate with each other to ensure that the services are not duplicated. But it is a great resource for households to either get a one-time emergency assistance in the form of maybe a rent deposit or some sort of utility deposit, as well as an opportunity for an ongoing monthly emergency assistance based on a sliding scale for up to 12 months. So that is a program that will not end at the end of December for people who might be eligible. And anyone who is interested specifically in that program can either contact our office for contact information for each of those agencies I mentioned, or also contact the agencies directly as well.
Are there programs that are specific to the COVID-19, in other words, the coronavirus pandemic, at the county level?
Yes, there are. So I know Debbie, I believe, is speaking after I am. I'm going to defer to her to talk more about that, but MEO is also running the HELP program, which is specific to households impacted by COVID-19.
Anything else you think you would like to add concerning county programs that are available?
Well, this isn't necessarily a program, but I did just want to take the opportunity to note that there are state and federal fair housing laws that might have applications to individuals or households impacted by COVID-19 as well. So fair housing laws are designed to prevent discrimination for both the availability and access of housing, as well as the equal use and enjoyment of housing by people who may have specific disabilities. So something that I have gotten some calls and inquiries on are from household members who have a disability-related need for an accommodation due to an increased risk for COVID-19 exposure. And there have been questions about how to navigate that and how to get support to make sure that that conversation with that landlord is productive and that there's an opportunity for the tenant and landlord to have a positive conversation to come to some sort of reasonable accommodation to meet the tenant's needs. So I do a lot of referrals for fair housing resources as well. So if anyone might have any questions about whether or not they might be experiencing some form of housing discrimination, I'd certainly encourage them to call me too.
Thank you. So I guess we'll turn to Debbie. Debbie, I know that MEO has been involved and worked with the county on a variety of programs, and that includes pre-coronavirus programs as well as programs that are specific to the pandemic, funding specifically designed to assist those during the pandemic. So Debbie, I'm wondering if you could give us information concerning what is available and how one might access that those programs.
Thank you for the opportunity, Judge. I do have a short PowerPoint I'd like to share regarding the COVID, the HELP program, excuse me, hang on one second. Let's see, share screen, there we go. Okay, so the Hawaii Emergency La Lima Partnership Program, known as HELP, was actually a recreation of a program that was administered by MEO back after 9/11. And so we already had a little bit of a track record. So when the COVID hit, we were contacted from the administration to administer this program. So an overview, it's financial assistance. It's only for Maui County residents. For some reason, we got on some call list, and we have been getting calls from Arkansas, from Kansas, from Toledo, Ohio, from Missouri, phone calls and emails and applications. So it is Maui County residents only, and it's to pay for essential needs that due to the layoff, reduction of hours, or loss of related income to COVID-19. As of September 11th, we have processed 8,384 applications impacting 21,787 individuals. We actually have 11,000 applications that we've received. We've distributed almost $3.4 million in assistance, and it's still coming. Again, they have to be a Maui County resident. They have to have been laid off and they have to have no more than $5,000 in liquid assets. That's in your checking or your savings account, and that is crucial. Some of the folks that were applying when they were getting the additional unemployment, that because the payment came all in one big lump sum, like back unemployment, they were not eligible during that period. We've noticed now that people have spent that down, and now they're qualifying. Family size, it's not a huge amount of money, but I think the county's intent was to help a great deal of individuals. So 1 to 2 is $500, 3 to 4 $750, 5 to 6 $1,000, and 7 plus is $1,250. It can be used for food, personal hygiene, over-the-counter medicine. You can purchase trash bags, toilet paper, hand soap, those kinds of things. And then, of course, we do assist with rent or mortgage. We do pay utility, phone, or internet. We help people with car insurance, car payments, and any other essential needs. We helped a gentleman recently needed tires. So we pay the payment directly to the tire company. They have to have a copy of a photo ID, proof of layoff. If they're self-employed, they can also apply, but we need their 2019 fourth quarter GET filing, a copy of their most current tax return, and that's important because that is what determines their family size. Copy of their checking and savings accounts. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
One application per household, and that's really important. We do have multi-generational families, but a household is determined by the tax return. So you could have 3 or 4 families living under one roof, and 3 or 4 of them could apply for the assistance. They can apply once every 30 days. Right now, there's a 3-time maximum, but there is another grant going through the county that will be offering some additional funding to MEO and will actually allow people to apply for more than three times of assistance. No direct payment to the applicant, just like Catholic Charities. No changes given on food vouchers, and no alcohol, e-cigarettes, tobacco, gift cards, or toys. Our biggest demand has been for food, hands down. Food. So we can do vouchers to different grocers, and they can get up to 4 different vouchers with one payment request. So we could pay maybe a utility bill and buy some food for them. And I think that's about it. We can apply online at www.meoinc.org. We do have paper applications because, like Thelma said, there are some people that can't navigate the internet, and so we will mail out applications to individuals. They can call 808-249-2990 Monday through Friday, excluding holidays, and ask for an application to be sent to them. We are discouraging in-person appointments just simply because we're trying to keep our staff safe, and we do have them all working in our Wailuku offices, socially distancing, wearing masks and all of that, but it's very difficult for us to process the volume of applications that we have, and for our fiscal department cuts all of those checks or produces all of those food vouchers themselves. Other than that, we do have some federal community service block grant money to help returning citizens from MCCC. So we have, and we also have some Weinberg Foundation money that's helped us with that. So we have leased a couple of units at Kahaleakiola so that we have beds available if somebody is discharged, in a moment's notice and they have no place to go. And we get them in, and then we have the community service block grant money that can help us to transition them into a long-term rental, and then also help pay with some credentialing. I think that's all I have for now, Judge.
Wow. Thank you very much, Debbie. I really appreciate that information. What I'll do now, and undoubtedly we'll come back with questions, but I'm going to turn now to Bhavan. Bhavan is with Maui Mediation Services, and Bhavan, what role can Maui Mediation Services play in terms of the pandemic and assisting individuals?
Oh, Nicholas.
Well, thank you, Judge, for allowing me to share what we've got going on. As of September 1st, we've actually started a new program entitled Finding Solutions Together. Now, this is geared towards landlords and tenants who just need assistance in starting the conversation. It's our understanding that Maui County has more than 20,000 renters households, and given all of the changes with increased revenue streams and just challenges that we're facing, sometimes the relationship between tenants and landlords is become quite tense to the point where they're not even speaking to one another. With our Finding Solutions Together program, we're inviting them to come and have a facilitated dialogue, talk about what they're going through, and hopefully find a way that they can keep more Maui County residents becoming houseless or homeless by understanding the challenges that both sides face and working through creative solutions. We're finding that oftentimes what might be a future eviction, a future dialogue about how we're going to work things out so it benefits to both of us. So again, the Finding Solutions Together program, we are inviting the landlords, the tenants, if they don't currently talk to one another, we'll make that phone call. We'll reach out and say, would you be interested? We're being invited to come and talk about rental solutions. So that is effective. It started September 1st, and we've gotten support from the county. This will be going on for the foreseeable future. It's at no cost to either the tenant or the landlord. We just want to bring the people together to start a conversation.
Vaughn, if a tenant does not qualify for COVID-19 assistance, is that it? I mean, it sounds like there may be other options here. And can mediation services play a role in trying to help people reach some type of an agreement that might address the needs of both the landlord and the tenant?
Definitely. We are not tying this to the COVID-19 pandemic. At this time, any landlord, any tenant that's wanting assistance or wanting to mediate, that's what they call our office at 244-5744, or reach out via email at info@mauimediation.org, and we will service them through the Finding Solutions Together program.
Vaughn, let's say I'm a landlord or a tenant, and I'm thinking, well, I don't know if I want to do mediation, especially with coronavirus floating around. How's the mediation actually handled?
Actually, Judge, we are handling it in a variety of ways. We have an online platform. We can do teleconferencing. And for a very few, we do face-to-face, but it's all socially distanced in a sterile environment, and we keep them at least 6 feet, usually further apart. But we are able to accommodate whatever the needs are. Some people just do not want to do virtual platform mediation. Some people don't want to be within 6 feet of the other person. So whatever the individual needs are, we will help them accommodate that conversation, because that's what's most important. Getting them to talk and getting them to understand we can help one another out if we just have a dialogue.
Thank you very much. Well, I'll turn to Mahina now. And Mahina, you're with Hawaiian Electric, and obviously utilities are critically important to everyone. But at the same time, we have the coronavirus pandemic and obviously many financial challenges for people in the community. What's out there? What are you seeing, and what options do people have?
Yes, thank you, Judge, and thank you again, Councilmember Sugimura, for today's discussion. We really recognize that power is critical to households and businesses, right? It's not simply turning on the switch and your light comes on, but we're really talking about people working at home, kids learning at home with online learning. We're talking about medical needs. We want people to stay safe and get the care that they require with home situations. We also know that a lot of families are using electricity beyond the norm. And in these pandemic times, under 24-hour, 7 days a week usage, the needs are great. in order to support households, residents, and businesses, we voluntarily suspended our disconnection of our customers for 4 times this year, and currently it goes out to the end of this year. So we understand the gravity of the situation that so many people are facing. We have about a little over 70,000 customers in Maui County and over 400,000 in the 5 islands that Hawaiian Electric serves. So this is a serious decision we made, but in complete recognition that in these pandemic times under the COVID conditions, times are tough for everyone. So we not only made that policy decisions with the support of our Utilities Commission, but we also made sure that as a business, we intensified all of our efforts to get that information out. So we've done a whole lot of things aside from just resources on our website. We have we have payment plans available in different lengths of time, in 4 months, 6 months, 12-month installations. Our commercial account staff have reached out to several hundred of our small businesses here on Maui Island and Maui County to check in on them, offer energy audits, offer to get them on payment plans, be as proactive as possible. We even have designated teams internally within our company that are addressing the needs of low-income homes. Those households have particular issues they're facing. But one thing I want to recognize and bring it out also is that we're finding quite a bit of middle-class families are now navigating their way through services and support that low-income families once were served by predominantly. So this is important to understand, because even though we're sending out notices through bills, folks aren't opening their mail. That's the reality of today. They're leaving their bills stacked up and not opening the mail. So regardless of whether we put information out through the mail or we make it available online, we offer in 7 languages. We're giving in any way we can through our charitable foundation. We support United Way. We paid for a month extra shipment of food to Molokai in the early stages when that was tough to navigate through the funding available. We've done a whole lot of advertising, and yet and we reach out to low-income customers, but we also reached out to everyone, even with businesses, and we're finding the response difficult at times. So it's interesting, we talked in the group earlier, how do we get people to participate in the programs or to make use of these programs? We really want to find a solution for that because the funding's there. Our moratorium has been extended, as I said, 4 times voluntarily this year, and currently it's till the end of this month. Someone who had difficulty paying a bill in the early stages of the pandemic is certainly not going to be able to keep up later. So we want them on payment plans now to make use of as much programs as possible. So those are some of the things that we're doing. We really recognize we have understand, how serious the conditions are for many, many households and businesses, and are truly doing our best to meet everyone's needs. All of our staff in customer service are trained to be open to working out payment plans with customers. We are pointing them to, matter of fact, we have a massive outreach going on from Maui County to direct our customers to MEO and to LIHEAP, to the HELP program funded, by the CARES Act money. We point them to Maui United Way. We're literally doing everything we can. So I think, as Councilmember said, a concerted, coordinated effort, which I see as an example tonight, is going to be important for our communities to get through this together and make use of all resources available.
Thank you very much, Mahina. To all of our panelists, is there anything that you're thinking about right now that perhaps has not been mentioned? We will go to question and answers in a moment, but if there's something else that you think we might have overlooked, please feel free to share. David?
So, Judge, who joined us is Nicholas Winfrey from Maui United Way.
All right, great.
So you didn't see him come in. He came in after his board meeting. So
I wonder if she would be able to share some information with us. I'm not picking her up on screen right now, so if you could help me with that,
Nicholas?
Thank you so much, Judge, and thank you, Councilmember Sugimura, as well. Obviously, it's great to see.
Thank you. Now
I apologize.
Okay, thanks.
It's great to see our nonprofit partners on this call that are working together along with our community leaders, both in the county and of course, our great partners over at Maui Electric as well. I'm not sure what was covered because there are so many programs that do overlap within our space. Maui United Way is really seeing kind of the 30,000 foot view of the nonprofit sector and really how quickly everyone has been able to act and react and plan ahead for what's kind of on the horizon for our community. Us as a nonprofit actually pivoted pretty quickly and actually sent out quite a bit of funds for COVID safety net relief, kind of that immediate impact of both healthcare, rental and utility assistance, food security, education, sending devices to HANA so children could learn remotely. There's so many different facets that we saw initially that have grown and then kind of snowball as well. So what we've done is kind of asked what's going to take place in the future and how can Maui United Way step up to that plate. We are continuing to work with Catholic Charities in our COVID rental and utility assistance, as well as Maui Electric. So there are some resources still available within that space. But we're also looking at how we can better support our nonprofit partners. That includes providing PPE free of charge to all of the nonprofits, whether you're a partner or not, and just seeing how we can better collaborate moving forward. We understand that the CARES Act funding, does have a kind of an expiration date, so to speak. We do understand the nonprofit community and the load that we're bearing on our shoulders. And we understand that there is a lot of emotional labor that's taking place, and we're not quite sure what's on the horizon. We do know that we've been throwing kind of buckets of water on a raging fire, and now it's time to kind of reassess and how we can build out fire breaks for the long-term battle that we have ahead to both rebuild our economy, but also figure out a different stream for nonprofit income as well. Us at Maui United Way do have concerns for the long-term, fundraising aspects in the sector, whether or not there's going to be some mergers and acquisitions in the space. We're just kind of seeing how we can do things better long-term with less resources, because us as a nonprofit, we see on the horizon a tough road ahead, but we want to continue to support our community in any way we can. And once again, I'll kind of put the warm and fuzzy blanket. That's what's great about Maui County, is that's what we all do, whether it's the Maui Nonprofit Directors Association, whether it's the phone calls I have with Bhavan or Thelma or Debbie or any of the nonprofit leaders. We're all working together. And I think we're going to need that for quite a few years to come.
Thank you very much. All right, well, what we're going to do next then is we're going to open it to questions. And then after that, after we finish that, I have a few concluding remarks, and then I'll turn it back to Councilmember Sugimura. Councilmember Sugimura, I believe you have been reviewing the questions that have come in. And so for the questions, I'll ask you to please assist.
Thank you. So I'm just, the question is for MEO, the vouchers that you issue for groceries. I got a question, what about Molokai and Lanai, and what stores here on Maui? I'm not too sure how the program works, so if you could talk about that.
We have the Friendly Isle on Friendly Market on Molokai, or Lanai, excuse me, and then I was trying to think of there's two grocers on Molokai. It's, why did I say it the last time and I can't remember?
Friendly Market and Mikasa.
Yeah, Friendly Market and then Pine Isle on Lanai. So both of them accept our vouchers, and basically, whatever amount the individual qualifies for, we issue a voucher. It's good for 2 weeks. It gets mailed to the individual. They take it into the store, and then the store processes it and then sends us a receipt along with the used voucher. So it's available countywide then? That is correct. Very, very good. And Hana General Store as well. Okay. Very good. So it's covered through Maui County. Another question this is regarding the tenant. So let's say a tenant does not file taxes. Are they eligible for county or state benefits?
I don't know what the requirements would be for proof of income, and I'm just wondering if anybody has an answer for that.
And that's probably best answered by Thelma and or perhaps Jessica or Debbie. Thelma, would that impact someone's ability to qualify?
I believe that for the state funds that they'll ask for pay stubs. So they will ask them for pay stubs to show that they were working or that they had been working. They will ask for unemployment insurance benefits, what they qualified for. And my belief is that they would not have to produce the tax returns. But for the underfunding, Nicholas perhaps can answer that for the CRUA funds, because we have been using tax returns for that one. But, even Maui United Way has been very flexible with the documentation.
So Nicholas?
Jessica and or Debbie, and then maybe we can get some input from Nicholas as well, but anything you would like to share concerning that question? A very good question.
I think what I found is it really depends on the origin of where the funds come from, and so it varies. So every program has different requirements, and if the point of origin is federal money and then the program says you need XYZ, you have to really be mindful and adhere to that. There's not a lot of flexibility. Some of the foundation funding is more flexible in terms of what kind of documentation you get. So it is varied throughout organizations what documents they require, and a lot of that is dictated by how their funding agreement is written. Thank you for the opportunity for the answer that question.
Nicholas, anything you would like to add?
I think it really just reiterates what Debbie said. It depends on the origins of the funding. With our CRUA funds, it is private and foundation funding. So we have had some flexibilities working with our partners on a case-by-case basis, and we're always open to have those conversations.
Thank you. Councilmember Sugimura, next question, please.
So what happens when you have a tenant that drains their savings in order to pay for their monthly rent, and if they qualify for this, can they get back their savings? Does that make any sense? A situation we got a call where...
That question has come up in the past, yes. Thelma, are you comfortable answering that?
Sure. Since our checks are made out to the landlord and not the client, it's very unlikely that they will be able to recover that. Because we do confer with the landlord, and if the landlord says that they paid that rent, whether it was August, September, April through July, there's no way that we would be able to make that payment for rent. So very unlikely that the client will be able to recover that savings.
Okay.
Thank you. Councilmember Sugimura, about your next question.
Can a tenant be evicted if they own a home? I know that there's some cash limitations that you can have, but if I have, I don't know, $2,000 in cash, the savings account, but yet I own a home, probably not the one that I'm renting, is that allowed? Or is that considered too much?
Take on that question.
I'm sorry, Judge?
Or David?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't hear who you were asking to address the question. But, as far as I understand, there's no asset limitations with respect to the state's programs. So, if you own a home, I don't know, in Arkansas or something like that, I don't think that that's a consideration for the state's programs, but somebody else might know better than me.
Oh, okay.
I believe he's correct. We were told there is no asset limitation.
Okay. That's great. So on Hawaiian Electric, Mahina, question about how does a person get into a payment program? Because just by listening to the great needs of the community, you might have a utility bill that's small and you think, oh, I can pay for it later. So what is Hawaiian Electric seen in reality and that you can share with the community?
Well, first off, to answer the question, how do you apply? Simply call our office or go online. If you go to www.hawaiianelectric.com, just click on the top tab where it says COVID-19. It'll take you through our page, and that's where you can apply online on the application. As I said, we are offering it in many languages. So also for our English as a second language customers, that's the easy way. What we are seeing is that you're absolutely right. There's hesitation, or even, we're finding someone, I just spoke to someone the other week, they didn't know about the programs. And so they were they wanted to keep up and just keep trying to make payments and really struggling and, trying to decide, should it be food, my medicine or utilities, and that could be water or power, right? And so, and I was really surprised that they weren't aware of the resources out there. I said, you could literally have saved your money for very, very urgent needs, or put gas in your car, all of that, and tap into these programs. So it's very disappointing. We only have, I want to say, about 15 weeks left to the end of the year. So whatever way that we as a community can coordinate and combine our efforts and really ramp up communication to the public. What I did notice was that some homes and some folks, they'll hold off thinking, it'll only be a couple months. I can hold off and, make payments or pay later or pay now and catch up, hope for the best later, and only to find out it's several months later now. So our moratorium has been, by the end of this year, almost 10 months, and so we really want people to make sure they do whatever they can before everything catches up to them for everything, all utilities and all necessities.
Thank you, Hawaiian Electric. So as everybody would want to know out there, if they do apply and they qualify, how fast can they anticipate the check to come? So I want to ask MEO, because I know that you've been actively doing this. So MEO, could you, an estimate, right?
We commit to 7 business days after an application has been approved. Where we have a slowdown is in the processing, and just like Thelma was explaining, maybe not having all the documentation that's needed, so that slows it down. So it's probably taking about maybe a month from when they apply, and then from 7 days from when it gets approved. So probably a month and 7 days, I'm guessing. We're trying to catch up. We made some headway this week, but as soon as you start catching up, an onslaught of additional applications come in and we get behind. So, but we're trying. Thank you.
Thank you for that. How about Catholic Charities?
I am not exactly certain how soon it takes. I know for sure that we started last week Tuesday, and we've heard that Maui folks have actually gotten checks.
Wow.
So some of the landlords have actually received checks already for Maui. So I know for sure that our response time is 3 days for when people submit their applications. And they're really trying to streamline the process so we can get the checks out right away. But again, it depends on whether the application is complete or not and how they're submitting their documents.
And what about Maui United Way, Nicholas?
We work hand in hand with Thelma, so it's kind of the same process. When an application is complete, we do process that within 7 days, same as MEO as well. It's either an EFT or a hard check to the landlord or to the utility company.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, do you have any comment on that? Do you know, like with the rental assistance programs?
I would imagine that the agencies are somewhat similar to what's been described. I know that they do the best they can to meet with clients and review documentation as quickly as possible. Sometimes getting the correct documentation can be a challenge, so it's always great when the clients do their best to turn in all of the relevant pieces from the onset.
That's the hard part, I think, getting all the documents in and submitting it all at once so that it doesn't delay the process. I have Daryl, who checked on what's happening with the OHA funds. Oh, excuse me. I just wanted to mention it. He said that OHA funds are being administered through the Council of Native Hawaiian Advancement. So visit their website, hawaiiancouncil.org/help. And then Department of Hawaiian Homelands just released to the press that they are assisting homesteaders. That's good to know in case any homesteaders may need help. Contact Hawaiian Homelands. Liliuokalani Trust, he just read that they have exhausted their funds as of August 27th, Liliuokalani Trust. And that's it. So I wanted to just kind of, next time we do this, we'll have someone from Hawaiian Homelands also here, which is a big segment of our community. Anybody and everybody, I just want to thank you all for all that you're doing. We all know that this eviction moratorium is huge, and I don't think that there was enough being put out for people to understand that there's help. And initially when I heard this, I thought, okay, what about the landlords? I honestly was saying that question, what about the landlords? But when I sat and thought about it, and I talked to Judge Cardoza, I realized that who we're helping are really the landlords by getting their money, and they've been patiently waiting, all these months, including, Hawaiian Electric, utilities that you're so nice not to turn off, services for our public. But I do want to say that the process is not easy. I have someone in my family on Oahu who's going through this, and that's what educated me about this process. And I realized that it takes a lot of paperwork to get this done. But I will tell you that when I heard questions, this is a gift, right? That the federal government, the state government, the county government is out there, but you have to do the homework, right? You got to get your pay stubs, your your tax filings for whatever is required. And if you can get it all assembled together and submit it with your application, it'll go smoother, because if you don't, it'll be rejected. But it takes a lot. And somebody said, well, why is it so difficult? And I said, because it's a gift. It's a gift for survival for our community. And it takes all of you helping, because I know you want everybody to survive in this very unusual situation that our whole economy is going through. So I had the privilege of getting to know Bevan as this started happening. I said, okay, Bevan, tell me what Maui Mediation Services does. And the county actually gave Maui Mediation Services some extra funding so you could bring on more staffing, to help with this. And each of you are working over and beyond what you normally would do because of your love and compassion, really, for the people that you service and are helping. So all of you, thank you very much for spending the time here and doing this. Thank you, Judge Cardoza. Thank you.
Certainly. In concluding, I'd like to echo your comments and your thanks to everyone for their participation. The information that you've shared this evening is extremely valuable, critically important for our community. I commend all of you for making this evening possible. And as you mentioned, the money, so to speak, is a gift, because it did remind me of a question, and that is this a grant? Or in other words, you have to pay it back? And the answer is no, you do not have to pay this money back. And so in conclusion on my end, I would ask everybody to please keep in mind that notwithstanding the moratoriums and the financial challenges that I recognize people are encountering with respect to rent, mortgages, utilities, and other issues, and then there are many other financial issues. It's extremely important to keep these programs in mind. And we've covered a lot of ground tonight concerning these programs. So that I think one very important suggestion to everyone is, look, if you want to explore this, give someone a call. I realize you may think at this point, that's a lot to navigate. They will help you. We are talking to agencies that are dedicated to helping people. So they will assist you navigating through this process. As it relates to landlords and tenants, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is that you work together. A landlord needs a tenant to succeed. A successful tenant means that the landlord has an income stream. An unsuccessful tenant means the tenant will at some point in time be evicted. That means the landlord's going to have to find another tenant, perhaps at a reduced rent, given current financial circumstances. And it's the unknown. You don't know what the next tenant will bring. So a tenant success is important. To tenants, it's critically important that your landlord succeeds. Landlords have to pay mortgages. They have expenses to meet. They may have upkeep and other responsibilities. If your landlord fails, it won't be long before you're out of that property because the landlord may face foreclosure or other types of circumstances. The success of one and the defeat of the other means defeat for both. If both succeed, this outcome is successful and it's a win-win situation. Work together. Reach out to mediation services if you feel you have trouble communicating. They will help you work together. So that's extremely important. And I would ask you to remember also that now is the time to address these issues and not 2021. We don't know what that year will bring. I don't want to scare anyone, but at the same time, it's important to remember that several days ago, the Congressional Budget Office announced that the nation's debt in 2021 will exceed the value of the entire nation's economy. That is the first time that will happen since 1946, just following World War II. So it's very difficult to predict what the future will bring. Many people are trying to create a better future, but now you have control through these programs. You have some control over what will happen in the coming months. Please take advantage of these opportunities, apply for assistance. And if you're not sure how to do it, make the telephone call so that you can get this process rolling. And again, thank you so much to all for making this evening possible. Councilmember Sugimura.
Yeah, thank you. I want to just say something before we close. Thank you very much. So well spoken, Judge. That when I spoke to Laurie Tsuhako, who is not here tonight, and Jessica, thank you very much for representing the county and the housing department. She said, in her wisdom, and all of you that work with people in this circumstance, she says, let the community know to be patient because it's going to take time. Be open. In this case, as I saw with my relative on Oahu who needed help, she said, Auntie, I don't want to tell you how much money I owe the landlord. And my relative was working like 2 part-time jobs, and her job at working at a school had stopped. And she was trying to, she's not part of DOE, so she's on a contract service, which made it a little bit cumbersome. But I saw her working and working and working, and she didn't want to tell us how much need she had. But we finally convinced her, and the aunties all came together to help her. But what Laurie Tsuhako said, to tell the community to, if you need help, pick up the phone, call MEO, call Catholic Charities, or Maui United Way, and you're going to have to tell everybody what you need and be open about it. And it's okay. It's kind of, we all don't like to talk about our personal finances, but it's a time to be open. Let yourself be known and how much help you need, because there's help available. So that was the whole purpose of this. And if you need legal services, look, we have two members here from the Legal Aid Society. I mean, that speaks volumes to me. And of course we have, the high-powered David Chi, a landlord attorney, but you certainly are compassionate to spend all your time educating, all of us. And Bevan Bowers, thank you very much for the services you do. And I will tell you that MEO, even when this COVID hit, MEO kicked in really early before all the other programs for help for our community. And I know because I have friends there who are working weekends, so you're not necessarily only working Monday through Friday and end at 4 or whatever. You have everybody that have kicked in with all your heart and compassion, to be there. So I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. And, you can always contact my office if there's more that we need to do that we're not understanding at this point, because that's what, we can possibly all work together. But thank you, everybody, for doing this. I hope that Akaku plays this over and over, and that if anybody who needs help, Daryl made a eviction moratorium, housing, this has all my writing on it, but housing and renting assistant roundtable, but a resource sheet so that if Akaku could post it, or I can post it on my county email so that people can actually know who to call that presented tonight. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you. My doors are always open to any of you if you see there's a way that the county can help you more. I know we have, the legislators would probably say the same thing. So thank you very much, and good night, everybody. Thank you for joining.